Yo, what's up, fight fans? Your boy Reggie Cross for Behind the Lines, and I gotta tell you, this one's personal. Because if you've been riding with the UFC for more than a minute, you've had your heart broken by fights that should have happened, that were right there, that were this close to changing everything. But for some reason, injury, money, politics, or just straight up bad luck, they never made it past the promo poster. Today, we're talking about Dana White's biggest regrets. The dream matchups, the legacy clashes, the generational what-ifs. I'm talking Tony versus Khabib, the cursed epic. Jon Jones, Francis Ngannou, the bag that got fumbled. GSP versus Anderson Silva, the GOAT war that never left fantasy camp. And look, I ain't just listing fights here. I'm walking you through the ripple effects, because when these fights didn't happen, they didn't just rob us of action, they robbed us of answers. Let's get into it. Let me start with the fight that haunts me the most. Tony Ferguson versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. This fight was booked so many times, it became an inside joke among fans in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and in 2020. And every single time, something went wrong. Injuries, illness, freak accidents, a global pandemic. You couldn't script this if you tried. Now, here's the thing. I'm from the old school. I watched Tony go on that 12-fight win streak and thought, this guy might be built in a lab for chaos. And I watched Khabib maul his way to the title like the second coming of Fedor in a tracksuit. Stylistically, this was the most fascinating matchup in lightweight history. Tony was unpredictable, wild, slicing people open from the bottom. Khabib was all pressure, control, and punishment. It wasn't striker versus grappler. It was madness versus method. And that's why it hurts so much. Because if they fought at their peaks, we'd have had a clear answer to who was the best lightweight of that era. Instead, we got ghosts. Tony fell off after Gaethje, Khabib retired undefeated, and all we have is 5 scratched out contracts and a million fan-made highlight reels of what could have been. This one was personal for many fans. This was the heavyweight matchup everyone wanted, because we saw this coming from miles away. Jones vacated his belt, said he was putting on size, said he was ready for the next level of violence. And Francis became violence. He took Stipe's belt like he was cashing a paycheck. Then the stars aligned, Bones versus Predator. The marketing writes itself, the stakes are obvious, and for once, the timing was perfect. And what happened? Money. That's what happened. Dana didn't want to pay. Jones wanted that generational bag. Francis wasn't going to wait around like a side chick. So we got Derek Lewis again. And 2 years later, Jones comes back and beats Cyril Gane like it was an exhibition. Now, don't get it twisted. I respect the win, but Gane ain't Ngannou. We got robbed of a fight that wasn't just about belts. It was about legacy. The best fighter of his generation versus the scariest dude in the sport. Who wins? Jones with the game plan and grind, or Francis with the death touch? We'll never know, and that's a damn shame. This one is different. This one was spiritual. Georges St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, for a long time, they weren't just champions. They were mythical. 2 untouchables, each with their own code of dominance. GSP, the disciplined technician, Anderson, the stylish assassin. I was yelling at the screen every time Dana teased this. Make the fight. They ruled the UFC from 2006 to 2012. There was time, there was hype, there was demand, but the fight never materialized. GSP didn't want to move up. Anderson didn't want to go down. And Dana, he never forced it. In hindsight, maybe he couldn't. But from the outside looking in, That was the fight that could have settled the GOAT debate before it became a barbershop argument. Would GSP control him? Would Anderson snipe him from the Matrix? We'll never know. And that's the theme today, isn't it? We never know. A few more that deserve to be on the marquee. Aldo versus Dominic Cruz, two of the slickest defensive wizards the lower weights ever saw. Could have been poetry. Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler, two at their peak, not the sad echo we got later. Khabib versus Charles Oliveira, the battle for the most violent grappler at 155. Israel Adesanya versus Jon Jones, both talked, neither moved. These weren't just fights, they were era definers, but the timing never clicked. So what killed these super fights? 3 words: timing, politics, ego. And sometimes it's Dana's own strategy. He protects champions. He books safe fights. He waits too long trying to, quote unquote, build it bigger. And then someone loses. Someone retires. Someone signs with PFL. And it's over before it starts. Now, before we wrap, let's talk today. A couple of fights we're still not getting, even when the matchmakers have everything lined up. Dakota Ditcheva versus Valentina Shevchenko. This one's bubbling hot. Dakota has said it loud and clear. She wants Valentina. But with the recent re-signing with the PFL for Dakota, the only way this is going to happen is if the UFC and the PFL do a cross-promotional fight. This fight could crown a new queen of female MMA or reaffirm dominance. The story's there, the timing's right, the UFC and the PFL just needs to make it happen. Ilia Topuria versus Movsar Evloev. Ilia's got options, but one he seems to keep dancing around: Movsar Evloev, the undefeated wrestling grinder no one's calling out. This fight isn't flashy, but it's real, and it would test whether Ilia's power and rhythm can hold up under suffocating pressure. If he wants to build a real reign, this is the fight to make, not a patty fight. Look, I'm not trying to be controversial, but the UFC's business model: delay the danger, promote the personality, and keep the matchup safe for as long as possible. But that's how you end up with videos like this. Fights don't live forever. Windows close fast in this game. Fighters age, hype dies, one upset loss and an all-time matchup becomes just another forgotten booking. The UFC can still course correct, but if they don't, this list becomes part 2 of this video in 2026. And we'll all be back here saying, damn, they never made that fight either. I love this sport, but the UFC has a burden. When you're the biggest platform in MMA, you have a responsibility to make the fights that define the sport, not just the ones that sell quick. Because moments are fleeting, but legacy is built on who you fight, when you fight them, and what's left when the smoke clears. Dana's made some magic over the years, but he's also let some of the greatest moments slip through his fingers. And us, we're left arguing in comment sections and dream building on Fight Night Twitter. So here's my question to you. What fight would you make right now before it's too late? Sometimes the fights that hurt the most are the ones we never got to see. This is Reggie Cross for Behind the Lines. If you're feeling the vibe, hit that subscribe. And until next time, remember, hype fades, legacy don't. Peace. 745.